I suspect I'm becoming a bit of a familiar, tired old face to many of you. Well, you don't have to laugh quite so loud, but I have been chairing and moderating at the FFA for a number of years now, and I keep coming back because I keep enjoying it and I keep learning things every year, and I think this year is going to be absolutely no different. Just by way of introduction, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephen Sacker. My day job is presenting an interview show on the BBC World News Network. It's called Hard Talk, and we like to think it asks tough, challenging, rigorous questions of people who shape our lives, people who have influence and power in today's world. Well, we're going to do a little bit of that today because we're going to have a series of presentations, speeches, and panel discussions from people who have, in their different ways, influence and power and extremely important thoughts about agriculture and its place in the 21st century world. Very important thoughts about the sustainability of how we produce food, food security. Huge themes, in a sense, themes that more than any other FFA conference I've been at before are about a truly globalized world. They're about universal themes, not just inward-looking European themes when it comes to agriculture. And that's partly because this is a very significant year. The world community, under the auspices of the United Nations, is seeking to establish a new set of global ambitions for development. You know, we had the Millennium Development Goals, which were essentially about lifting the poorest billion out of poverty, delivering basic health care, basic food security, education to the world's poorest people in the developing countries. Well, now the effort is to move beyond that to what are being called sustainable development goals. And these are goals that involve us all in the rich world as well as in the developing world. And that is something of a theme which is going to underpin all of our discussions today. So that's just a bit of an outline of what we're going to do. You're going to hear much more from a whole variety of speakers. I'm not going to go through them all now, but I know you've all got programs, and I'm sure you've all been looking at what is upcoming. I'm chairing some of the events. My colleague Matthew Dempsey is chairing others. There's a lot to get through, so I'll try to be as efficient as possible. But it wouldn't be an FFA conference here if there weren't one wonderful, familiar, experienced personality to kick us off and give us his opening thoughts. He's been involved with this event from its inception. He's been an EU commissioner. He is a very, very familiar figure here in Brussels and to many of you. So let's kick off by giving a very, very warm welcome to Franz Fischler. Franz, over to you.
Thank you, Stefan. Good morning, everyone. Distinguished guests, dear speakers, friends, ladies and gentlemen. When I launched the Rice Foundation back in 2007 with my former Chief of Staff, Corrado Birzio Biroli, I highlighted the double interrelated food and environmental challenge the world was facing. We identified three key principles which we thought would be important to pursue. First, it was clear that, like in other sectors, innovation is key if agriculture is to progress towards a positive future. Second, European agriculture can only be based on sustainability in all its three dimensions, and if we are successful in implementing this principle, European agriculture could become the role model of the future. Third, future agricultural policy must be enshrined in a holistic rural development strategy that aims to create equal opportunities between rural and urban societies. These principles guided us when we created the FFA 1 year later. From modest beginnings, the FFA has since thrived, becoming Europe's primary venue on the subject. But this wouldn't have happened if there was not Corrado. He was the manager of this undertaking, and I would give him a special thanks for all he has done. And I hope you join me here. This year is, for the future of the food and farming sector, a crucial year. In autumn, the world community will decide to eradicate hunger within the next 15 years, and on the 1st of May, the 2015 Expo Milano will open its gates. You will contribute to the legacy of the Expo by developing a research and innovation strategy to make sure that we are able to feed a world of 9 billion people. After chairing 7 annual fora for the future of agriculture in Brussels, I have the honor for the last time to welcome you all for flocking together, so faithful and numerous, and renewing your pledge to a more sustainable agriculture, more sustainable resource use, a more sustainable environment, and hopefully also more sustainable consumption. Today, I have the pleasure to hand the FFA chair over to my friend Janusz Potočnik, that is, to a safe and inspiring pair of hands. Janusz has been a regular FFA speaker since he became Commissioner for the Environment in 2010. An FFA chair rotation between former commissioners for agriculture and for the environment corresponds to the equal weight the FFA attaches to farm productivity and ecology, which are two sides of the same coin. Janusz will no doubt promote the simultaneous increase of agricultural productivity and sustainability, putting greater emphasis on the latter than in the past. If there are differences in our outlooks, they are very minor. While I have always attached great attention to the environmental aspect of my work, Janusz, he is the son of a farmer, has always taken at heart the need for farmers to make a living, and I am sure he will also look after the social dimension of agriculture to complete the sustainability triangle. Now, Janusz, it is your turn to take over the chairmanship of the 8th FFA and start with your welcome speech. Please come on stage. So.
Thanks. Take care. Thank you, Franz. Thank you for what you have said, and also thank you for everything you have done. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Some of you might be wondering why I have accepted the role of FFA chairman and step into the big shoes of my excellent predecessor, Franz Fischler. Yes, I am a farmer's son, and yes, I was spending all my youth enjoying the smell of drying hay, learning how difficult the work of a farmer can be, and how thankful and respectful we should be for everything farmers are providing to us and to our quality of life. But later in my professional life, I was only indirectly involved in creating the policies for the future of agriculture. Despite the fact I was a regular participant of previous FFAs in the recent years. Because I have always believed that agriculture and environment, an area I was directly responsible for, are intrinsically linked and depending on each other. And because I have seen in the FFA forum where people can exchange their views, listen to each other, and even when they disagree, have a possibility to narrow their differences. I still believe the same. That is actually why I'm here. The latest CAP reform, after difficult negotiations in the Council and European Parliament, did not, in my view, match the sustainability challenge we face. But almost immediately after the reform was agreed, before it even began to be implemented, not to mention before we could even see how and if it would work, the polarization that marked the negotiations became even more stark. On the one side, there was an immediate push to lower the level of ambition and to reopen the whole approach of greening. On the other side, the whole thing was being painted as a failure. In this context, the challenge of a sincere reconciliation and unavoidable change is still ahead of us. And the sooner we face it, the better for all of us, including all of us attending here this conference. Why? There are several reasons. First, the world with the United Nations in the lead is in the process of the most profound and also promising transformation, addressing the need for poverty eradication in a sustainable way. This post-2015 agenda should lead us to an agreement on sustainable development goals. In essence, it is about the necessary and unavoidable change in the way we produce, we consume, in short, in the way we live. We Europeans are not alone facing these challenges. On the contrary, the changes are global, and we should all be ready to participate in it and contribute our fair share. Second, the European Union is still facing the consequences of deep and very resilient financial and economic crisis. Life after the crisis will not be the same for anybody, including farmers. We cannot pick up where we left off in 2008, saying, thank God, that's over. I hope nobody still lives in illusion that after all budgetary cuts and belt tightenings that many Europeans are still facing, there will be willingness to use public money without a clear proof that it is used to address public needs and goods. Common agriculture policy is and should be the most important financing instrument for agriculture and for farmers. I would even dare to say also for the environment. This brings me to the third and final reason. The two communities, farmers and those who want to protect and preserve environment, need each other. But to a large extent, they even have the same long-term interests. But we have to admit that during the process of the recent CAP negotiations, the trust between two communities has been weakened, and a lot of hard work will be needed to re-establish it again. Only in a sincere and lasting partnership can long-lasting solutions be truly reached. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's forum will discuss the food and environmental challenges in the context of the global developments. Today's sessions are more or less following the structure of the goals and targets proposed by the so-called Open Working Group in the United Nations process of SDGs creation. The opening address will be delivered by the distinguished Arun Gandhi, agent of change and author, the voice of global total nonviolence. The first working session will focus on the total need to rethink global food security and sustainable agriculture, with Commissioner Hogan and FAO Assistant Director General Wang as the keynote speakers. In a world in which still 2 billion people suffer from malnutrition, a similar number is obese or overweight, and natural resources are finite, the need for policy rebalancing is clear. In the European Union, where the recently reformed CAP has caused so much discontent about its bureaucratic complexity and unfulfilled ecological demands, this need for policy rebalancing is equally clear as we start to prepare the midterm review of finances due in 2017. The first session will be followed by the keynote address by UN Special Advisor Amina Mohammed, who will introduce us to the process and perspectives of the new Sustainable Development Goals. The second session, with a keynote address by my successor, Commissioner Vella, will deal with ways to reconcile ecosystem services and environmental risk management in agriculture. The spotlight here is on the environmental management and sustainability, their potential risks and their potentials. This has been a constant subject of the FFAs and will continue to be, analyzing the growing predicament the world faces, notably as regards farm production versus resource use, sustainable intensification, and nutrition recovery and recycling. After the lunch break, the afternoon will be opened by the address of Mr. Jeremy Rifkin, focusing on the role of agriculture in the third industrial revolution. Rifkin's books have turned him into the world's guru of many interconnected subjects regarding biotechnology, the digital, energy, industrial, and labor economics. He has written also about the European dream and the emphatic civilization. The first afternoon session will go deeper in the innovation aspects of the circular economy in agriculture. It will be introduced by my good friend Pavan Sukhdev, known also as an author of the TIB report, Mainstreaming the Economics of Nature, and Martin Stuchtey, McKinsey's Center Director. The last session today will be devoted to the agricultural aspects of international trade partnerships, most notably the ongoing transatlantic trade and investment partnership negotiations, so-called TTIP. John Hopkins, Professor of International Economics, Anne Krüger, will deliver the keynote address. The TTIP talks are today in the center of public attention, and as you know, they are quite divisive, not only as regards to agriculture and services, but also in some other aspects. Ladies and gentlemen, we need food for our life, and agriculture is that noble activity providing it. There is no doubt about that. As there is also no doubt that this activity has to be organized in a healthy way and in a harmony with nature. I didn't become a farmer. I was never really cut out for those early mornings. But I did learn some important things from living in a farming family. One is that you harvest what you sow. Our program today is sowing many and diverse seeds that will be food for thought and for action in the coming years. And our excellent speakers will be nurturing those seeds as they sprout their first green shots. I would like to thank all of them for joining us, and I would in particular like to thank you, our faithful audience, for being here today and for staying with us already for so many years. Enjoy the day.